Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan. It is our midweek mashup here on Inside the Birds, but it's a good one. Oh, it's always a good one. But we have the NFL trade deadline come and gone. Halloween come and gone. Hope everybody had a nice Halloween. Pretty silent NFL trade deadline for the Eagles, Adam. Not so much for the rest of the league, although I think the Eagles just got their jump start. They obviously addressed the position of need when they got Kevin Byard, and we'll talk about the trade deadline a little bit. But is there anything that happened in the last 24, 36 hours around the league that sort of opened up your eyes a little bit?
All right, so what I did with that question, I always wonder what the contract negotiators, GMs, personnel directors think. So a couple teams said to me about this, and it's funny because it's the way the Eagles think.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the Leonard Williams deal where the Seahawks, for a non-edge rusher, gave up a 2 and a 5. A 2 and a 5 for a 29-year-old player. Leonard Williams is a nice player.
Yeah.
And it's not even signed for next season.
Yeah.
So what this one guy said to me, this is a contract negotiator, said, he goes, our team, there's zero chance we make that trade without having him for next season.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about it. If he kicks ass, they're not going to want to use a franchise tag on him. He's not signed for next season. It's a good thing, obviously, for Seattle. If he plays well, you're going to want to bring him back. But that's going to be a big contract. It's just not what you do. But
right.
John Schneider knows contracts. It's 5 or 6 years ago, I sat in John's office for an hour and we talked contracts. He really knows contracts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just surprised that Schneider, the GM of the Seahawks, didn't. Maybe they're going to do this. Maybe they're going to add a year. I don't know what they're going to do with Williams' contract, but he's only signed for the season. His contract will expire. And then Montez Sweat, Ryan Poles does it again. He trades. Look, he completely missed on Chase Claypool, second-round pick for a guy that
terrible
had big character. Okay, we knew this when it happened. It was a bad.
I remember us doing the podcast saying, like, as much as we know about Chase Claypool and the situation, that was such an obviously bad deal.
It's rare that the fans knew that. Fans knew it too. We knew it. Everyone knew it. Dumb trade.
Yeah.
Even if it was a 5th-round pick, you're going to miss on. Anyway, so he missed on that. The word on Montez Sweat, who they got from Washington, he's a nice player. Good length. He's more of a power end, a better than average pass rusher, really good against the run. Nice player. Is he really worth a 2nd-round pick? And by the way, guess what? Panthers should get the 1st pick overall, or it's Chicago's, by the way.
Right.
For Carolina to get Bryce Young. But it could wind up being the number 2 pick in the 2nd round. Again, they had the 1st pick in the second round this year in the Claypool trade, 33rd pick. They gave up. And again, Sweat's not signed for next season. So now, if you're Ryan Poles, go to his agent Demarius Bilbo, former Georgia Tech quarterback, and say, "Listen, we're making this trade. We're not going to do it unless you agree to a deal." Now, as of now, they don't have an extension.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yes, they have a franchise tag to use on him. His contract's up. So this one contract negotiator said to me, "We just don't do it like that. You're not giving up." He goes, "It's different. If you were giving up 4th, 5th, or 7th-round pick, don't worry about it." But the first 2 rounds are called premium picks. Some teams call 3rd-round picks premium. Depends on who you speak with. Clearly, 1st and 2nd round are called premium. And it's just not smart. Now the Niners did this with Jimmy Garoppolo when they traded for him from New England.
Mm-hmm.
They waited, and then they eventually got it done. But that's not smart.
Right.
So, I'm off my soapbox here, but just talking to this guy on Tuesday, he kind of explained to me why you don't do it. There's way too much risk for taking on. The only upside is what you don't want. You don't want the guy, if you don't get a deal done, the guy gets hurt. Yes, you have leverage against the agent and the player, but you don't want that. You don't want to wish for the guy to get hurt. So it's not smart.
No, I think you're 100% right. And I think that Eagles fans have seen that with Howie Roseman, in that if he's going to, they always say Howie wins the deal. And in a lot of cases, it's not really like winning the deal. It's just that you're not going to give up a ton of compensation for a guy who either A, is older, like Robert Quinn, right? Or B, you don't have a whole lot of control over. Robert Quinn was going to be a free agent, so you don't have a lot of contractual control. So why are you going to give up a lot of compensation for someone you don't know is going to be with you beyond that year, who's basically a rental player? You very rarely, if ever, see Howie Roseman do that. And I think because of that, the Eagles have, even when it doesn't work out, like Robert Quinn didn't really work out you can say Golden Tate caught one touchdown that was important for the Eagles in the playoffs, but in general, he didn't give the Eagles what they were expecting. But again, the compensation, Jannard Avery, maybe a fourth round was a little high for him. But either way, most times it's not something you're like, oh man, I can't believe I gave up a second round pick for a player who's just not very good like Chase Claypool, or one who just leaves your team in 2 months after, being a rental for you. And that's the difference. I think to your point, when the Bills traded for LaShawn McCoy, remember that? Like they gave him an extension immediately, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there you go.
Because
they did.
If you're going to give up compensation, you have to have more terms for that player. You can't just have a rental if you're going to give up a lot. Right. So I agree with you. I will say, I'll say I understand it from the Bears standpoint, because they needed an edge rusher so badly, and B, they've got so many high picks coming that they'll be okay. But if you want to tell me that doesn't matter, it's not a good reason to do bad business, I would understand that sentiment.
True. I was just going to say with Robert Quinn, what the Eagles did, if you recall, and the reason why they didn't get a compensatory pick is because he agreed to cut off the year on his contract, so he walked.
Right.
But now, as it turned out, it's probably a good thing because he didn't play well. He was hurt. He had back problems here. In fact, I think he went having surgery. But the bottom line is, you don't want to give up premium picks and not have the guy for the next year. It's just ridiculous. Because it's great if the guy does well, but then you have to use it, and you have to tag him if you don't have a deal done. You don't tag a guy. You usually tag on a guy that you just got on trade. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. If you would have
on your go ahead.
I was just finish your point.
I was just going to say the other word I got was that the asking price for cornerbacks was ridiculous. One team told me it wasn't the Eagles. A team that was in the market goes, you cannot believe the asking price. And the guy explained to me, goes, understand something. Edge rushers and corners are premium positions. He didn't say premium. I called it premium. He said, whatever. He used the term. And I said, oh, you mean premium? He goes, yeah. So maybe that's why maybe Jalen Johnson didn't get traded. Jalen Johnson, and you and I talked to him, right?
Yes, we did a pre-draft interview with him on Inside the Birds way back when. Yeah.
2020. Yeah. For that draft. Super nice guy. Now the Bears with him, the Bears were in negotiations with him. They couldn't get a deal done, so he gave his agent permission to seek a trade, and they wound up not doing a trade. There have been all sorts of rumors the Eagles are involved. I mean, I don't want to shoot it down myself, but what sense does that make when you're in deep with two veteran corners who are being paid an astronomical amount of money? What were you going to do? Bring Jalen Johnson in here, give up a second or first round pick for him to be a nickel? What?
Yeah.
It's out there. I don't know. I haven't even checked on it yet because I thought it was preposterous. But we see all these rumors. The rumors, it's hard to keep up with this stuff because some of them are such nonsense.
Yeah.
Where teams will actually reach out to us and go, this is not true. You could do it with you want. And I don't like to shoot stuff down on Twitter anymore. I just don't do it.
Right.
Like I remember TJ Ward. There was that rumor about TJ Ward being an Eagle.
The Oregon safety, yeah.
It was good. The Eagles had interest in him. They had zero interest in him. Zero. Because they didn't want a box safety. And it just, someone reported it, and I remember I put it out that they're not interested. There's no chance of it happening, and it died like on the vine immediately. But this is what happens. Agents sometimes use clubs as leverage to get the word out. Right. Got to be careful of that stuff.
There was a time, obviously, when Chip Kelly was the head coach, when anytime a player from Oregon was involved in either like a trade rumor or whatever, the Eagles were always mentioned. It didn't matter. It could have been Oregon's like long snapper, and the Eagles would probably have been interested. Like it could have been their equipment guy, and the Eagles might have had interest in him.
Well, Josh Huff, right? Josh Huff,
yeah. Brandon Bear.
Okay.
Who's the wide receiver?
Huff,
no, wait. I keep thinking David Ball and Jeff Mayle, but wait, yeah, Mayle was the Oregon guy, right?
Oh yeah, no. Jeff Mayle went to. Well, okay, he went to Oregon. Dave Ball was Maine. Was it Maine?
Either Maine or New Hampshire. One of those, like Chip Kelly.
Yeah, New Hampshire. Okay. Now he put up monster numbers in college.
Yeah,
but he was so far past his football prime.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Mariota, right, and Deion Jordan, literally any player who ever played at Oregon. Jarius Byrd, remember that? Every Eagles fan wanted Jarius Byrd.
Wait. Okay, it's so amazing you brought him up because I was looking at all depth charts of the Eagles. So every Eagle wanted him. Every Eagle fan wanted him. Now, did they ever sign him? I totally forget.
No, he wound up getting traded to New Orleans.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
or no, he never got. I'm sorry, he played. If I'm not mistaken, he
Played for the
played out
Saints for
his
sure.
final year on the franchise tag, and then
Okay,
signed a big deal with the Saints, and then got hurt a lot, and never
okay.
really. Yeah,
Because I was that was the name for you and I for as long as you and I have covered this team. That was one of the top three names in Eagles free agent history. Fans were so out of their minds wanting this guy,
yep,
and it was like a phenomenon. It was like this guy is like Dawkins reincarnated. It's just it's they all want they could. He was a really good player for a number of years, and then he just completely fell off, as you mentioned, due to
yeah,
injury.
yeah.
You just never know with that stuff.
So there's three guys that I remember in my beat reporter career, that will always be the guy the Eagles wanted badly, right?
Eagles are fans.
Plexico fans, Eagles
Oh
fans,
yeah,
Plexico Burris, Anquan Bolden when he was with the Cardinals.
when they would call him, the fans called him Anaquan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever it was. Yeah, but
yeah,
yeah, they wanted him so
I
badly because he
remember
was always on their trade rumor list.
that.
And
Yeah, that's
then
right.
third being Jarius Burke. Those were the three guys that the Eagle fan had to have.
All right, so Plaxico. This is a running joke with Ruben Frank and I.
Yes.
You know what I'm going to get to. So I would get when I back in the day when most of us who cover the league for a living would interact on Twitter. We don't do it anymore, but when we used to, I used to be like every day I get interaction with fans. I used to enjoy it, and they would just kill me over Burris. When's it going to happen? I had enough. So I said to Rube, I said I would tag Rube and I go, Rube, we need an update, please. And I give like the praying emoji because I couldn't take it any longer.
Yeah.
And he would send it back to me. I sent it back to him because remember when Plax went to jail?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and they wanted jail updates. Fans,
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous.
I remember
Anyway,
there would be a
we
point
digress.
where I think Rube started this sort of it became like a Twitter thing among beat reporters to just tweet the word no whenever a player of substance, like household name, becomes released, because you would inevitably get 1,000 people in your ads like, should the Eagles get, should the Eagles get, should the
Oh
Eagles
yeah, yeah,
get,
yeah.
right? So Rube just cut it off at the head, like somebody would get released and Rube would just tweet, not even response to anything.
No,
He would just tweet no.
oh,
And
don't
then
ask.
everybody
Right?
started doing
Don't ask.
it.
Well, all right. Before we move on here, my personal favorite would be, and thank God for the mute button where you could leave a conversation. So certain fans will tag every single NFL reporter, or when the people have fantasy questions, I used to have a running joke. They'd like tag me, this guy, Obama. You should see the list of people they would tag. There could be like 100 people. They want their fantasy question answered. They don't care who answers it. They just want an answer. I would literally like, this is unbelievable. I should have taken a screenshot,
Oh my
but I
god.
would leave you could leave the conversation. You could find that little. It would be like George Washington.
Hey, Margaret Thatcher, who should I start in week 7 flex?
Who knows? It's Jeffrey Lurie on Twitter. Could be him. Tag him. And I'm joking, but or it's called X now. Sorry. So anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. So anyway, great week for Inside the Birds. Q&A was really good. I mean, they're always good, but I think that people have been asking us, and we'll continue to do it throughout the week also. But people have been asking us, like, what happened? And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, I think I'm having an alien invasion because the light just keeps flashing on and off. I don't know if you can tell, Adam, but my light is just going on, then off, then on, then on. And I don't know what's causing that. It's a little freaky. But anyway,
There it is, yeah.
people have been asking us to really explain and break down why the Eagles were scorched and roasted in the secondary so much against Washington. And we'll talk about it a little bit in this podcast. But I think that if you want, real expert breakdown, Jason and Quentin, especially Quentin being a safety, right, and understanding route concepts and how to defend them, were really good in explaining what they saw. Now the question is why. They saw they can tell you the what happened, and the question that is sort of unanswerable. And I have a theory myself on why, like Sean Desai would let that happen, why they would do certain things the way they did, is sort of up to Sean Desai to explain, or Nick Sirianni or whatever. But I thought Nick kind of answered it a little bit, because in his press conference he said, we got to close the middle, we got to make sure we're we're sort of not giving things away. I think that was his way of saying like we lined up a certain way that maybe told the offense what they can do. But either way, if you listen to Q&A, they give an excellent breakdown of what happened, and along with a really good discussion on AJ Brown and the offense. It was just a very, very insightful Q&A this week. So it was really
awesome.
excellent.
And there's a clip out there which I watched on Tuesday. It actually encapsulates for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds what you're talking about. So it's great. And what, by the way, what's the latest D Gun? We got anything new here?
Yeah, so Gun on One will be out today, noon. It drops on Wednesday. He did it with it was a really cool one with Ray Didinger, and it's just no. I love Ray. You know, Ray and I worked together at Comcast Sportsnet for a couple of years. We did a show. God, what the tape breakdown show? I can't. It was Ray.
Oh, the Monday show. Yeah,
Ray, me, and Jamal Jackson with Ron Burke hosting, and that just takes me back to a really awesome time because you can't. You know, aside from you, Adam, you can't find like 3 or 4 other great people to work with who just talk ball and freely and know how to break down tape. And Ron did such a great job of directing traffic. That was my most fun year. It was my 3rd year at Comcast Sportsnet doing that show with Ray, Jamal Jackson, and Ron Burke, and it was fantastic. So Ray and D Gun on One, and it was cool because it was a lot about this year's Eagles and what Ray thought of them. He had a really interesting comment about what he thought about this year's 53 going into the year that I was surprised to hear him say. So I would check that out. Always, I mean, anytime you can hear Ray Didinger, it was almost an hour long too. Is a great show.
Yeah, I go way back with him doing back to 96, 97, 90 when Comcast CSN started. When I started doing Daily News Live, he was on. It was great getting to know him a little bit, and always loved talking ball with him. And then the big news is what we got going on Sunday for the pregame show.
Yeah, we are back at Fringe, the bar that we were at 2 weeks ago, Monday night, the Sunday night game for Miami. So our pregame show, it'll be the same usual suspects, myself, Adam, Jason Avant, Greg Cosell, but it's going to start at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock at Fringe Bar, not 10 a.m. And the game itself is at what time? This is a
4:25.
Yeah, it's a 4:25 game. We usually do 10 a.m. starts even for 4, but we're going to do 1 o'clock. We're at the bar. You know, it's going to be a blast. So please come out and see us. And I want to just take a second to say that when we were at Fringe 2 weeks ago, we got a lot of great comments on YouTube, and some people reached out to us saying it was really cool to see us back in one spot, and they really enjoyed watching us all together. It is different when we're at a place like we had been at Rivers and other places in the past. It is a different dynamic for our show. And so just to let our audience understand that most pregame shows are in a set, like at a studio. Like, you know, if you're watching Comcast or you're listening to a radio show, it's usually not on location at a place. If you're watching a pregame show that's at a place on location, like College Game Day, they got a built-in crowd. They do it because they know 100,000 people are going to be at Penn State, Ohio State, right?
Of course.
So in order for us to continue to entertain people and be able to do a show from a bar or a setting where we can all be together, people need to come out because that's what the bar wants. They want people to come out and watch the show. So this is our way of saying, hey, if you really like seeing that, us all together in one spot, and you think it's a great dynamic, and you live within the confines of the Delaware Valley, please come out and see the show. So come out to Fringe at 1 o'clock, and we're very interactive. We sign autographs. Jason will shake anybody's hand. Greg Cosell will talk football with anybody. You and I are there. We interact. We take pictures. We've done this with people who've come out to see the show before, but we really encourage people to come out and see the show. That gives us the best opportunity to be at a place and kind of put on the type of show that people like to see.
I got to tell you, that show that we did there from Fringe a few weeks, it might be the best show we've ever done.
Yeah.
The information and the analysis and the back and forth. Jason and Greg they're always good. They took it to another level in that show.
Mm-hmm.
That was for the Dolphins game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was. It was for the Dolphins game.
Yeah.
They were off the hook great, and I cannot wait for it. And speaking of off the hook, I talked to John DiFilippo on Tuesday night. He cannot wait for our Patreon members to break down the tape.
Nice.
So John, before we move on, he's going to break down Jalen Hurts, why he played so well from a quarterback coach's standpoint. We've not really talked about AJ Brown very much. Yeah, everyone knows he's great. We want to know why he's great from a coach's standpoint. John, let's not forget he's been also an offense coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to break down their offensive scheme. We haven't really talked. We had a couple questions over the last couple of weeks from our Patreon members about that. We're going to get into that. Also, we're going to take your questions. Go to our Patreon page. Remember, obviously, and if you're not, patreon.com/InsideTheBirds and subscribe. And he's going to answer your questions. He told me he absolutely loves doing it. And he's kind of blown away by how smart everybody is. He goes, you clearly, he said to me, he goes, you guys are clearly doing something right because you people are smart. I'm like, it's what we want.
That's right. Absolutely.
Anyway, appreciate it.
Awesome. So good stuff there. And again, catch and by the way, Inside the Tape with Clay Harbor, Greg Gosell, that'll drop Thursday, and that's going to be an awesome show as well. So a lot of great stuff coming up this week on Inside the Birds, as it is Dallas week. Forgot to mention that. I know everybody is excited about the huge game coming up here between the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys that we'll talk a little bit about as well. A reminder, Inside the Birds is presented by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It's the exclusive Jersey Shore Resort. From Inside the Birds, let's pause for a second and hear from our friends at Ocean Casino Resort.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
All right. So the trade deadline, Adam, was, again, for the Eagles at the deadline, silent. We went into some reasons why. I also have a theory, just digging in, talking to some
real
people
quick,
also.
just so you know, it doesn't matter that it's Tuesday. They made a trade on Monday.
Yeah, they made a trade. Right.
People get a big deal. Because think about it. Let's say they made 4 trades 2 weeks before that. So if they didn't make any trades on Tuesday, that it's not a good trade. It's nonsense. It doesn't matter what day you do. It's just
correct.
Either do it or you don't do it over the 3 weeks. Most deals get done within 48 hours of the deadline. But you mentioned Byard last week.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got to tell you though, in our Patreon chat on Tuesday night, it was great because the first question I asked the guys is, I was like, look, how do you feel as an Eagle fan?
Mm-hmm.
Are you pissed off? Are you disappointed? No, they're like, good. Don't give away draft picks. Don't reach. I was like, wow, this is great. These people are like so calm,
mm-hmm.
Because you know how fans get. But no, because I think you get to a point here because the fans are so smart these days overall. They have access to a lot of information. They know the Eagles roster is really good. Yes, they know what they need. But why overpay for guys who are mediocre? So good for those people. That was great.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I also think I agree with you. Just because you don't make a trade at 4 p.m. it doesn't mean you didn't do anything. The Eagles addressed their most glaring need. Their other needs we talked about would be slot cornerback and a linebacker who can kind of cover. I think that's kind of hard to find at this point on the trade market compared to like if you need a defensive end and there are some bad teams like Washington, right, that had 2 that they could unload. Somebody else traded a defensive end that I can't remember either. Or if you need a cornerback, right? Rasul Douglas got traded to the Bills. Okay. If you need like a coverage linebacker, it's tough. Yeah, that's just a tough to find. Not every team first of all, every team's looking for one of those anyway. So they're not like in a rush to give them up. And then nickel corner is another one where it's like, if you're a bad team, you probably don't have a very good nickel corner. And, I don't know what the price is you're asking for if you do. So I think the Eagles did what they had to do in addressing safety. They do have nickel options with the health of Bradley Roby. They just got to hope he stays healthy. Justin Evans could come back healthy. They could play there. They're going to continue to work different guys.
I hear you with Evans. Yes, technically.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a plan C, but like
plan F.
Plan F.
Well, remember again, the guy missed. He's a nice story.
Yeah.
Great that he revived his career with the Saints and somewhat with the Eagles. He missed 3 straight seasons. You can't.
Good point.
You cannot depend on guys who are hurt.
So you're saying they're already on house money because he started the first 2 games at nickel?
Yeah. Great way to say it. Okay.
I can buy it.
Good summation, counselor. So to move this along here.
Mm-hmm.
My thinking, I said this with Mike Gill on Tuesday. My thinking is this, and I'll explain a little bit deeper. My thinking is, first of all, they haven't put Roby on IR. He's missed 2 games. They clearly think he could be back soon because why would you not want to put him on short-term IR so you can create a roster space?
Right.
Roster position. So they clearly think he's going to be back relatively soon. Yes, they have other guys who can do it. Depending on how you evaluate it, my number is 8 players who've played slot corner so far. Technically,
that's probably right. Yeah.
Now, Mike Gill brought up a great point, which I totally forgot about. We both have. Okay. So I mentioned the trickle down issue with Maddox going on IR out for at least the rest of the regular season.
Yep.
I totally forgot about Zach McPherson.
Oh, we've talked about that though. Yeah.
Rarely, right?
Yeah.
A couple months ago. But think about it now, because if Zach McPherson was going to be here, he'd be playing right now.
Of course.
And this is one of the things that they wanted him to do. They were going to cross train on the outside, but he's really this guy. He'd probably play inside.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 2 potential top ones was the guy. The number 2 slot corner was going to be McPherson. He was the de facto one last year. Him being out hadn't helped, and I understand there's no way you could plan for that. But who knew that Josiah Scott had to come back? Right. Eli Ricks has been an unbelievable story. I'm kind of stunned at this. I don't know how much longer he can continue. Mm-hmm. With his ability to play the slot. He's never played before, and he's doing yeoman's job. We'll learn more about that as the weeks go by. We'll ask the guys on Sunday what they think on our pregame show. Sidney Brown, we know, could play, but he's really not a slot corner. Right. Not. You can do it because he's done it, but he was really a box safety who covered tight ends because they were there in the short area, Illinois.
Yes.
So at this point, and Bradbury did it, he was comfortable with it. It's going to be tough. Now, they do have Kindle Vildor, who I remember talking to someone with the Bears. Boy, they were high on him for a couple of years when he was their slot corner. Then he kind of fell off. Now, part of it's because of the new scheme, because they completely changed their scheme in Chicago, so he was no longer needed there. Maybe Desai, who we played for, maybe he's got something.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if we did see some Kindle Vildor elevation at some point in the year. And I look forward to just saying the name Kindle Vildor as much as I possibly can.
Not as hard.
So the Eagles did make a trade, not to acquire a person, but draft picks, because they traded Contavious Street to the Atlanta Falcons, and along with a 7th round pick in 2024 conditional for a conditional 2024 6th round pick. I mean, this was just basically the Eagles had a glut of defensive tackles. They were able to get something for Contavious Street. And the Falcons needed one because Grady Jarrett, who is one of my most favorite underrated players in the NFL, got hurt. And they have a good defense. So Contavious Street will probably go in there and play a decent number of snaps, which sort of surprises me that they got such little in return, but he really wasn't. I mean, he was playing like 8 snaps a game for the Eagles. So I don't know.
Yeah, he's playing less than 20% of the snaps. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So he knows Ryan Nielsen, their D coordinator. They were both together with the Saints. That's really where Street played very well. He actually showed some pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
He was with the Saints with Ryan Nielsen. So they're back together, and they're in really bad shape at D tackle. It's David Onyemata can't rush a passer at all. They're playing an undrafted free agent, Mikhail London. Unfortunately, got hurt in that game, but I don't think it's serious. And former Eagle legend Albert, not Miller Huggins. You might remember him. Remember him, Albert Huggins?
I remember Albert Huggins. Yes.
Yeah. So they're hurting. So they had to do something. So yeah, from the Eagles' standpoint, and here's the other thing: you're going to have a numbers issue because Roby's on the 53, so they don't have to worry about that. But you've got not Jack Driscoll, Jurgens, who could be back this week, right?
Right.
Be back this week. Sirianni sure hinted that. Sounds like he's going to practice. Don't know that for sure, but he's hinted at it in his Monday press conference. So if he's ready this week, they've already cleared that spot up. Then also, eventually Julio Jones. This is their last week for the elevation. Justin Evans, who you mentioned earlier, and Quez Watkins. They can't activate him until after the bye because the bye does not count as a week. It's games, not weeks on IR. So they got a numbers problem here. It's a good thing to have, but I do wonder, like, who could be expendable here?
It's a good point, because it's got to be more than just Contavious Street, to your point, right? Contavious Street leaves one roster hole open, and if Cam Jurgens is activated into the 21-day window today or sometime this week, he comes back, bam. But what happens, as you said, when Julio Jones is out of elevations and needs to be active? What happens when those other two, Quez Watkins and Justin Evans, are ready to be active? Isn't there somebody else? I thought either way, there's more. You need open spots on your 53 to accommodate the returns of players that you're going to need. So you're going to have to figure out a way to move on from some players. And that sort of raises the same, why is Rashad Penny on this 53 question that we're going to keep asking, but let's see what happens when these guys have to be added to the 53 and what moves that they make. So Julio Jones has reverted back to the practice squad, which, by the way, as we like to remind people, that means he can sign with anybody. He's a free agent technically. Obviously the Eagles are going to keep him and do whatever they need to do. I would imagine that I wonder if catching a touchdown and showing that just makes them maybe want to have to put him on the 53 earlier than they think and not even try to get away with one extra week of elevation. Probably not.
Well, here's the problem though. If Jurgens come back, you might as well use that elevation one more time.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So look, he scored. He's never been a great red zone guy, but he did score. Boy, the players went out of their minds. It's pretty cool. We're number 80 though. For those of you over 50, this is crazy. I should know this, but this is how crazy I am with numbers. So in the 70s, I knew the Eagles numbers and Flyers numbers, like probably Sixers, back of my hand. There was a player named Don Zimmerman, who was number 80. He was a deep threat in the late 70s. I was like probably 10 years old. But I remember him. And I couldn't remember the other 80s, other than Chris Carter. No one else. I know there's been probably several of them, but I couldn't remember it. No number 80s in the last 20 years I could remember. I just cannot. I don't know what it is. I just don't remember any of them.
They didn't call Don Zimmerman Popeye, did they?
Very good. That was Don Zimmerman. Right, I got you.
Just wondering.
I'm trying to pick Chris Carter. Okay, we know T.O. and Avant were 81. Who are the 80s?
I don't know. I'll throw names at you, and you remind me what numbers they were. What number was Thrash?
83.
81? 83? Okay.
83.
Pinkston?
87.
87, right. Did they have any tight ends at number 80? What did Keith Byers wear?
Keith Byers was 41.
Oh, yeah, who's 41? I don't mean Keith Byers.
John Spagnuolo played with Jaws, 88.
Right. Who's the tight end I'm thinking of? Keith Keith
Krepley? No, you wouldn't.
No. I don't know. There's a tight end whose name is just like all of a sudden escaping me.
Mike Mamola's 59. We got to get him on. I love you. Have you met Mike yet?
No, we haven't talked to Mike
awesome. Yet. He's a riot.
Yeah.
He's he's business partners with former Eagle Mike Chilinsky, Chili.
Oh, how about that? Okay.
Yeah. I love Chili. Good dude. Yeah. I see him at golf events. A really good dude. So Mike tells great stories. He said he'll be happy to do it. We were close to having him do an event with us years ago, but when the pandemic hit, we had to cancel it. And when you hear his combine story and how it happened, he is Mr. Combine. Everybody knows. But people forget how good of a player he was. He wasn't great. Oh, yeah. People call him a bust. He wasn't a bust. He
was definitely not a bust.
No,
it's the most overused term sometimes to call somebody a bust when they're not great, but he was not a bust.
Yeah.
Played 7 or 8 years in the league?
Something like that. Yeah. He had a severe foot injury, which ended his career.
Mm-hmm.
He was your typical 34 outside linebacker, speed linebacker. And he blew up the combine because he had a combine only workout. The athletic numbers were so bleeping ridiculous.
And
I want to ask him, because I don't know if I've done this. I want to know who made the call. Was Ray Rhodes the coach? Yeah, Ray Rhodes had to be the coach. But who was the who was the? I don't even remember who the hell was in the front office then. What we're gonna have Joe Banner on soon. We'll probably ask Joe.
Right.
What his thing? If he remembers, but that. Mike tells some great stories. Most of it I never heard before. So, yeah, we've got to do that.
Did Billy McMullen wear 80?
Yes.
I think he did. Yeah.
Correct. Did you look it up?
I did.
Kevin Curtis.
Kevin Curtis wore 80 as well. Yeah.
Yes. Good job.
Yeah. And by the way, remember when James Lofton was an Eagle?
That's another one. I was talking about this in the Patreon or Patreon chat the other night, the Q&A one. We were just going back and forth. It was a free-for-all, by the way, folks. You missed it. It was awesome. We were all it was like a conversation at a bar. Phenomenal.
Nice.
Yes. So I'm trying to think. Yeah, what other ones?
I could go through the whole list of them. There's a lot of them, but
anyway,
apparently James Thrash did wear 80 for a little while. So
okay.
Irving Fryer.
Was he 80?
According to the Eagles media guide, he wore 80.
Okay. I believe. Oh yeah, yes, he was. He certainly. He was also 80 at Nebraska.
Yeah, Keith Baker. Is that who I'm thinking of? I said somebody named Keith who wore 80 in 1985. Keith Baker.
No.
I don't know if that's who I was thinking of, but either way. All right. There's like a bunch of other guys from the 40s and 50s that we're not going to go through.
That's Ray Diddy. No.
and Tyree Jackson. We remember he wore 80.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So those are the injuries. We'll find out more about Cam Jurgens in the next 24 hours. It sounded from Nick Sirianni's press conference like he was pretty hopeful that he'll return. So that was good news. And that'll be good news for the offensive line, which has had some ups and downs the last few weeks. As far as defense, Roby, we'll see if he can come back from the shoulder. And Justin Evans still has one more week to go by rule with his knee. And I think Quez Watkins also has one more knee to go. Now the Cowboys are coming up. They're usually one of the most banged up teams that we always talk about year to year, but this year it's not been as bad, right? I don't think from an IR standpoint that they've lost a ton of guys.
Two.
I mean, obviously Trayvon Diggs. Everybody knows Trayvon Diggs has been out for the year. Yeah.
Leighton Vander Esch with the neck.
He's always hurt. I don't even count him.
Yeah, it's too bad. And they lost a kid, DeMarvion Overshown, to his ACL, who's going to start.
Yeah, good player.
Yeah, that should be 3. But yeah, it's not like they have like 10. But the big one on offense, the guys are actually on the roster now. Tyron Smith he's now missed his 3rd game. This one is with a neck stinger.
Mm-hmm.
This could be bad sometimes. Who had it? What running back had it that last couple of years? Running back they got from the Jordan Howard had it. Remember Jordan Howard had it?
Yes. Jordan Howard had a lot of neck stingers, right?
With that. And here, how about this? Chuma Edoga, his backup, hurt his ankle late. He didn't return in their big win against the Rams. They're calling him day-to-day more questionable. So they had one man standing, only one guy left. Is Sim Richards, who's a backup right tackle guard, took over for Edoga. We'll find out more later this week for Friday's show. But yeah, I mean, that's obviously advantage Eagles. So that's it. You're right, though. Overall, they're in good shape.
Do you think that if Tyron Smith is going to be out, and then this backup is also going to be out, do you think that they would flirt with the idea of moving Tyler Smith to left tackle and then playing this what's his name again? Asim Richards at guard instead? That would to me make more sense.
But here's the question.
Mm-hmm.
So we know what Jeff Stoutland hates to do. He doesn't like to make one move because it causes other moves.
Yeah, but this is left tackle, man.
I hear you. No, it's a fair point because Tyler Smith was drafted to be his replacement.
Right.
And if you recall, we were previewing an early Dallas game, and it didn't look good for Tyler Smith in training camp. He was struggling at guard, and then he shocked them. Actually, when he played at left tackle for Tyron Smith, he was seen coming real raw at just being ready to play at all. And he played great at left tackle, played a little bit at guard, but really good at left tackle. He played primarily left tackle last season. And because there are a lot of coaches we spoke with that did not like Tyler Smith at all because he's too raw,
Yeah.
Give Jerry Jones credit, who's the GM and owner, and Will McClay, the personnel director, give him credit for that.
By the way, what a weird thing Jerry Jones said last week, which is like, we're not going to call anybody about trades. We'll only take calls. First of all, I don't believe him for a second.
Just nonsense. Because it doesn't
yeah.
Work that way.
Secondly, you're not doing your job if you don't pick up a phone and call, see who's available. It's not a position of weakness if you're just calling every GM saying, and this is what most GMs do anyway. Hey, what are you looking at? How are you feeling about player? It doesn't mean you're want that player. You just do it. You're surveying the landscape. But that was such a fake tough guy comment that made no sense. It's like a self-own. I don't pick up the phone to call it. Well, that's why your roster sometimes stinks and you got holes because you don't pick up the freaking phone.
You know what's funny about the Cowboys? Can you remember how bad they were in free agency in the early to mid 2000s? The Roy Williams, the receiver, just never worked out. Gave away too much. They made some really bad trades.
Yeah.
They really draft and develop. I know, folks, they choke a lot. There's no question. We get that. But they generally have a pretty good roster for several years, but something always seems to happen to them.
Yes. Cowboying is starting to get right up there with chargering and what's the other one? There's another team. I don't know, like
chargering. What else?
I don't know. You could say like Jetsing or Brown, but that's just being
No,
bad.
chargering.
Charging
And
is the one.
When a prominent coach that I know, a positional coach, brought that up to me like weeks ago, he goes, Chargers are going to charge. I'm like, where did you? I was like, dude, what? You know about this?
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, he goes, I'm on social media. You just don't know what my name is on there. I'm like, oh, okay. but anyway, yeah. So they're look. And we'll get more to this on Friday. It's going to be fascinating because nobody is coming close to stopping or slowing down AJ Brown. And I'm going to look at, because I have access now to the data. So the Cowboys play the third highest amount of man coverage, which means he's going to see Gilly Lock, Stephon Gilmore, still playing well.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the best offseason moves as far as what a team needs, and who was available and what they were able to get for him.
So I am fascinated to see how they're going to do it, because it's so special what AJ Brown's doing. I'm so curious to what they're going to do in that matchup. The other side is Jerron Bland, who can be beaten. He was their nickel. He's doing okay. And Jordan Lewis is their nickel, but he doesn't run all that well. So I'm fascinated to see what the approach is going to be. This is the first of two matchups. I'm so glad that both quarterbacks are healthy, so we get the real matchup here. And Dak played really well last week against the Rams, so this is going to be fun, folks. Sunday late afternoon.
Well, yeah, late afternoon, and then by the time it's over, it'll be night. So you're sort of close on that.
The weather's going to be, I'll miss the weather.
That's right. Isn't it supposed to be nice this week? I swear, I know winter just like swooped in all out of a sudden, but I think over the weekend it's supposed to be in the high 60s again.
You would be correct. Sunday, low to mid 60s. Yeah. And then rain the next week. Yeah. So
it's great.
It's good football weather.
All right, so let's we'll have plenty more on this game against Dallas coming up as we get really shift into Dallas week. Let's rewind here, talk a little bit about the Washington game. We'll recap it. Before we do that, as we remind you that fall, we're just so busy. We got so much going on, and we don't always Adam and I and our families, we don't always have time to just make a home cooked meal. Right? That takes a lot of time, but not with HelloFresh. They deliver farm fresh food with pre-proportioned ingredients and seasonal recipes right to our doorstep. No more wasting time at the grocery store, because America's #1 meal kit helps make home cooking easy, efficient, and affordable. Don't have to waste time researching recipes. Don't have to worry about planning things. With HelloFresh, the shopping's already done, and the perfect amount of ingredients arrive with step-by-step recipe cards. How efficient is that? All right. Plus, HelloFresh saves you time and money. HelloFresh is 25% less expensive than takeout. So you get a good home cooked meal, a healthy one, and you're not digging deep into your wallet. And don't forget about taste and selection. HelloFresh makes food for meat lovers, seafood lovers, vegetarians, vegans, and people who just love a mix of all. And the food just fantastic. It's fresh. It tastes wonderful. I've been telling people how much I love the spicy Creole stew, the pecan crusted trout. For some reason, I picked a lot of seafood, and I happen to really love it. Next time, I'm going to try something with some meat. I'll get excited about that. And not only did we get to eat these things, but we got to eat them as a family at the table, which was nice to do. We weren't running around, and we had time. So go to HelloFresh.com/50Eagles. Use the promo code 50Eagles to get 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50Eagles. And you use the promo code 50Eagles. It's all one word, for 50% off plus free shipping. Act now to get America's #1 meal kit. All right, so let's talk about the offense against the Commanders. That's far more fun to talk about for what they did. I thought I got a huge laugh at Nick Sirianni's press conference. All right, I don't know if you heard it, but Marcus Hayes.
Yeah.
Marcus Hayes asked a really good question, basically saying, hey, if you go back to the history now of Jalen Hurts getting hurt and how he plays when he's hurt, he plays really well. He was supposedly really hurt at the Super Bowl, still with the collarbone, and he had a great game. So is there something to that? Marcus asked. And, Nick, in his typical long-winded self, the first two sentences were fine. He's like, I never really thought about that. I'll have to go back and look. But then Nick starts to go into this long ramble. And at the end, he goes, well, if there's something to that, we'll have to look in and see. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What are you going to do if you find out there's something? You're going to go break his ankle
Take
next
a
time
hammer.
he's held?
No, but I'll be honest with you. I actually thought about that because we saw in 21 just struggled. Let's call it like it is. I mean, that's why they were after Watson. Thankfully, they didn't get him. Russell Wilson, who you name it.
Yeah.
Last year, he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
He could throw from the pocket beautifully. Absolutely. But you could throw out every narrative. He couldn't do it. It's all nonsense. He absolutely throws well in the pocket. I mean, you saw the throw last week. You saw the throw when he just heaved it downfield and almost got taken out, and he completed it. And he just was him and AJ. They're so I in my notes, Hurts's aggressiveness. It's kind of the same thing with Wentz. We're going to ask Steve Filippo this. How do you? And actually, Carl Stevenson asked me this in our live Q&A. It's a great question. Sometimes Hurts will move when he shouldn't move, but he makes a great throw.
Yes.
And it's the same thing that Cosell brought up about Russell Wilson, because he had talked about how he talked to Dave Canales when Canales was their quarterbacks coach. Dave now is their OC of the Bucs. Because there's a dividing line. You either get on the guy and say that's a bad throw, you shouldn't do it, or okay, we're going to show it to you. Look, throw is here, but great throw. But you want him to make the right read. But there's a thing, creativity, quarterback. I know you got to play within structure, but there's sometimes you can't, or you just know you can make the throw. When guys are playing at such an elite level, you don't want to mess with them, and that to me is coaching, and it's tough. There's no great answer for it, which Greg was talking about. But when you see a brilliant throw, what the hell are you supposed to say? Great throw. I mean, what are you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, like Jason Avant pointed this out, and it was a great point. Like the throw you're talking about to AJ Brown, where he just sort of heaved it, took the hit. Like that was a fade route against 2-man coverage, which you should never ever throw that ball. Like there's no reason to throw a fade against 2-man because you're asking for trouble.
It's not the throw.
And it would have been if AJ Brown hadn't stuck his hand out and figured out a way to catch it.
But again, that's what Carl was bringing up. When it's just like John pointed out to us early in the season that there's some throws that should have gone to Goddard. He goes, it just clearly should have gone to him, but Jalen is like Wentz, like these other guys. We're super aggressive throwers. Now, we didn't know this about Jalen as much in 21. We sure as hell know last year. It's incredible. And he just made a big jump. Do you want to curb that? Yes, I know you got to show it to him, but you shouldn't get on him and jump him if he's making a great throw. I mean, it's tough. I'm really interested. We're going to bring this up to John this week, and we'll ask Levon about this and what it's like in the meetings, in the offensive meetings, when who the OC was under Andy, Marty Morningweg, or Andy calling it, or the quarterback, whoever it was. I'm curious what Jason will say about that.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. And I definitely had a good laugh when Nick said, well, we'll have to see. I'll look more into it and see if there's something into it. Because I kept thinking, like, what are you going to find out? Okay, he plays better injured. So next time he's healthy, you're going to say, hey, Jalen, come here. Let me take a baseball bat to your shoulder.
No, I understand it. But it's a fair question because, honestly, Hurts has not run as well as he has in the past. He doesn't look as explosive. This is before the injury, by the way. Yeah. We brought this up week 1. He didn't look explosive at all.
Right.
Yes, he's still strong and shifty, and it's great vision when he runs, but he doesn't look as explosive. Now, is it in the back of his mind, hey, I'm not going to push it. Let me just stay here and throw it. Only he can answer that. Mm-hmm. But how the hell could you not be happy with the way he threw the football last week? Are you kidding me?
Both quarterbacks.
Yeah. It was ridiculous. It reminded me of the Foles. Do you remember when Cousins was with Washington? Mm-hmm. Might have been 2013. Probably was. Either 2012 or 2013 when I think it was Foles versus Cousins, and it was just ridiculous, the accuracy of both quarterbacks. This game with Sam Howell, and we'll talk more about the defense with the guys on Sunday, and I know Greg and Clay will bring it up. But it was kind of like who's going to have the first incompletion? I mean, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I do remember that. And that brought up the great fact that Nick Foles and Kirk Cousins and Brian Hoyer were all once teammates at Michigan State University. Yeah. And then well, a heck of a quarterback room there that year for Michigan State.
For sure.
I think that there's no question, two things. There's no question that Jalen Hurts has to do a better job all around ball security. I know that listen, I know it's a fluky fumble. He's not fumbled before on the tush push. but you can't be this deep into the season and look at how many giveaways the Eagles have, and a lot of them with him. I think 10 giveaways just by Jalen alone, and keep saying, well, that doesn't happen much, and that doesn't they've got it as a team and as the leader of the offense. The Eagles have to be better with ball security. They are -3 now in turnover ratio.
How
They have
7-1?
That's just a testament to how much talent they have, because
It's ridiculous.
same thing with the Chiefs. The Chiefs are actually -3 or 4 also, and they're doing well. But most teams who are minus are not doing as well as the Chiefs and the Eagles, and it's just not good. They got to figure it out.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's Nick said. It's Nick said. And he's maniacal with this stuff. It's not acceptable. It can't continue.
Right.
It's like the Phillies with the bad decisions and their base running and their errors.
Yeah.
Stuff's got to stop.
Yep.
And they were ridiculous last year with the turnover margin. Although I remember you brought it up first and people got on you for it. You were right. Of course, it was never going to continue because we would ask ourselves on the show, how long could continue? You go, this is ridiculous. This can't. It never has happened before.
Right.
You can't keep being +3 and +4 every game.
Yeah.
It would dissipate, but they were still great with ball security. So Jalen knows he can't. He's very aware. So is Nick, and they'll go over the way it's coached. But the other issue on offense is the running game. What do you make of this?
I think it's clearly symptomatic of Jalen Hurts not running anymore. And that's not my way of saying the Eagles will never be able to figure out a way to run. I just think that for the last 2 weeks, what I've seen, especially the Miami game, is that the linebackers are shooting the gaps. They're getting really close. They're almost cheating up at scrimmage and not playing the zone read. They're not playing the quarterback keeper off of either an RPO or whether it's just a straight zone read. They're just not playing. They're not worried about Jalen Hurts tucking the ball and running to the edges on a design run. He still can scramble even with the knee injury. I mean, I think we saw that a little bit. He can still move around, but mostly all this year, he has not done a whole lot of it. And so because of that, it's on tape now. Earlier in the year, like against Minnesota, you could tell, even though he wasn't running, they still feared it because it was early in the year and they thought it could happen. I remember watching the All-22 and thinking, wow, Jordan Hicks, the reason why he can't make a tackle right now, remember how much inside zone they kept running inside zone with DeAndre Swift in that game? The same play over and over. It's because Jordan Hicks at every handoff was like, am I going outside or am I going inside? Am I going outside or am I going right? Right now, the Miami game, the reason why that tight end screen to Dallas Goedert was so effective is because Miami was just blitzing guys up the A gap, taking guys up there. They're trying to clog those gaps and stop the run because they don't worry now about Jalen Hurts tucking and running. So I think the Eagles have to counter adapt to that. They still have a very good offensive line. They have good running backs. I think that they've got to just either, whether it's pin pulls or getting offense traps, just being a little bit more creative in their running game. I think they'll be fine, but I definitely think it's the reason why it's not as been just blowing people away is because Jalen Hurts isn't keeping the ball.
Right, and plus remember, Suopeta. Well, first of all, Jurgens was out, and then Suopeta missed time this game, and Tyler Steen had to come in, so that obviously was impactful. Hurts had a 12-yarder 2 weeks ago, but he just does not look right running the ball for whatever reason. Now he's got the knee injury. Which Fox reported that it is a bone bruise. Now, bone bruise, is painful because we've talked to players about it, and they're typically swelling. Sometimes you have to have fluid taken out of the knee, so that can linger for several weeks. B-Doc had one. I think with B-Doc had one. It lasted for several weeks, obviously many years ago, but so you do worry about that. And Tyler Steen, hey, you know what? It's not the way you want him to get in there for someone who's injured, but at least he got in there. He got 6 snaps. Give Opeta credit. He actually only missed 10 snaps, Opeta. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. He must miss 6 snaps. He came back. Give Sua credit. We don't know. By the way, it was never listed.
Never announced. Yeah.
So we'll know today if he's on the injury report what it is. But the bottom line is the run game's got to be better. It has been better. It will be better. I'm sure they know it. Stoutland's not going to put up with it near the Sirianni or Brian Johnson, so they'll get it done. Swift looked fine. I know Gainwell had a bad game overall in certain respects. Obviously, the fumble's inexcusable. Got to have better ball security, but he had a couple of really nice plays in the past game, which I think got lost because so many people were pissed off at him. Then he had the dumb thing with a fan at halftime. Can't do.
Listen,
I'm sure you're aware of that.
that's pretty bad. I'm very surprised that Kenneth Gainwell did that.
People.
Yeah,
Good kid.
To me, that's emblematic that this has been a frustrating year for him. I mean, what? How else would you? If you're answering fans at halftime of a game on your phone, you're in your head. You're frustrated and you're pissed off. And I mean, how else would you read that? I mean, this is not something I've ever heard an Eagle do. I mean, other than we knew Jalen Reagor would go at fans on social media, not during games, but like that was a sign of a frustrated. And Brandon Graham, that was a sign of a frustrated player at the time. So that's how I have to read that he's okay. Frustrated with his year.
He's a pretty good kid. I'm kind of shocked.
Right. I agree. That's why I was
heard about this. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Kenny Gainwell? Okay, well, look, now everyone's asked about Rashad Penny. We put this out 2 months ago, and we'll just repeat it. He did not have a good training camp. The coaches are telling you they don't need to say anything. They won't play him. They obviously don't want to play him. Mm-hmm. It's their decision. They're not being forced to play him. Though they owe him $600,000 fully guaranteed the season. The coaches are giving you the answers to the test. They don't want to play him. They don't believe in him.
But then why is he on the 53? What is
insurance?
The point? For what? You think if they released him tomorrow that he would get claimed or he would get signed?
Right. No, you're right. Claimed. Because after Tuesday, all vested veterans are going through waivers. But no, you're right. I'm sure. Because remember, I said this weeks ago, why don't you just go talk to his agent, say, hey, we want to put you on the practice squad. If you agree, we'll cut you now. We'll sign you the practice squad tomorrow. Because you're right. It is taking a wasted roster spot. They have 3 backs on the roster already. Now, unless the transactions or decisions by coaches always give you the answers to everything, but they're not playing someone. They're telling you they don't. They don't trust him.
Right.
We're not guessing. We all know this.
Yeah.
Why do we know it? Because they won't play him. They're giving you literally. We don't want to use him. They're telling you.
Right.
So unless something changes, I said this in our chat on Tuesday night. I'm like, if they would just have him active, there are going to be games where they're rolling on someone. That's when you love to give him a run just to see if he can play anymore.
Yeah.
I want to look. We had heard from someone from another team who watched the Eagles preseason tape that one game against Baltimore. Even though he had a couple of carries, he looked bad. He didn't look. Yeah. He had no juice in his legs.
Right.
And when the coaches don't want to play him, because think about this, Boston Scott has basically no role in special teams. They use the roll at will, like you've always said, and they just spin it when they feel like going to play him. Right. Mm-hmm. It's a 2-man backfield plus Hurts.
Yeah.
Would it be so bad if they had him active one game? And not their 6th defensive tackle is going to be now Moro Jomo. Give him 5 to 7 carries.
I mean, I don't know because they haven't, like you just mentioned, they really have. Even the Miami game that they won handily, it was tied, and then they went up by a. They didn't really pull away until the 4th quarter, right, in that Miami game. So there hasn't been a game in the last 2 or 3 weeks that's been so one-sided that they could just. Okay. The one time they played him was when Scott was hurt. Who was that? I don't even remember who was against, Minnesota or something, or Tampa.
Oh, Minnesota. Remember, they only played him because Scott got hurt right in that game. Is that when they had to play him?
Yes. And they were running like crazy that day, but then they gave him the ball and he got like 3 yards, right? So you could tell right there that something wasn't right.
I mean, I just think it's you and I are seeing the fans are because I know people have asked us on the YouTube message board. I mean, we had heard he didn't have a great camp, but so what? He was on the 53-man roster. As you're saying, make a decision. Either you cut him, or again, I know it's abnormal to have 4 backs active. That's not what teams do unless someone's hurt. But is he so bad? Or even if it's the 2nd quarter, which obviously, and it's a tight game. If they must not think he has anything left in his legs because you know what he did 2 years ago in the final 6 games of the NFL rushing.
Yes.
That's when he takes 1 carry and can go long. Yep. Does he not have that anymore?
If he did and they weren't playing him, that's like malpractice.
I guess he doesn't. Again, coaches, I've learned this forever. They give you the answers to the test because they don't. It's like when teams cut players. Do you think they're going to cut good players? No.
Right.
Players that they think you help, they just don't think they can the guy could help them anymore.
Yeah. Now there
But
are some times where coaches are wrong. I mean, we saw that in
sure.
week
Oh, yeah.
1 and Kenneth Gainwell getting like 25
Stupid.
snaps and Swift getting none.
That was
But
dumb, right?
yeah,
100%. I don't know what that was. We called it out. I begged. Remember, I begged them, and Cosell thought I was out of my mind. That was right.
yeah, yeah. So all right. So we'll see if that's what I'm sort of have my eyes on against Dallas is do they do something different in the running game? And I will say against Washington, there were a ton of quick passes to Swift and Gainwell, which act as like a running game, but that's not really a running game because those passes never really can become explosive plays. They're meant to like get you the 3 yards and then the defensive back swarm and it's a tackle and you say, all right, now it's 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 6, right? A run for the Eagles can lead to an explosive play when you put the ball in DeAndre Swift's hands if you get him enough blocking and get him into the second level. So I would like to see them spice it up a little bit in the running game now that they know that teams are sort of maneuvering and playing a defense because they don't respect the quarterback keeper anymore. So
now, I'm going to disagree with you, though. Coaches never put together a pass and say, let's just get 3 yards. It's not the way it works. I know what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is the function of a pass to the flat to a running back, you're not getting a touchdown on that.
No, but that's the reality. No, I hear you on that.
Yeah.
But coaches don't think if they're going to have a check down
mm-hmm.
or in the play, whatever the play is called for, and if it is actually okay, it's the best time really to pass is on first down because defenses they're not playing nickel.
Sure.
They're just not their defense.
Yeah, they're usually in zone too.
Yeah. Right. So if you throw on first down, even if it's a dump off, you figure you get more of an explosive play. Mm-hmm. But you're right in the end. The passes in the flat, for whatever reason, they're not getting the stuff you and I saw in training camp. Swift is unbelievable. I'm not going to curse. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. That's when I was like, this is going to, if they do this, and they have somewhat, but they're not getting the juice plays downfield. Like we saw, remember, we both saw with Swift, it was 40 yards downfield if you're watching on YouTube. He actually fell to the ground and caught it. I'm like, I wish we had an instant replay. I was like, how did he do this? Mm-hmm. He was making highlight plays practice after practice. He didn't even practice a lot. But we're not seeing those plays. We're not seeing downfield. As you mentioned on the other show, what's that play Greg talked about that Miles Sanders had in 2019 against the Vikings? What's the play called?
Oh, the H seam?
The H seam. They don't do that.
Yeah, they do not. They've done a couple of DeAndre Swift lined up wide, but not like, it's not like a staple of the offense or anything like that, or even a wheel. They don't really see too much of a wheel. Right now, what they do is
no wheels.
They have him run like the angle route where he comes out and then does a two-way go either left or right against a blitz. But yeah.
By the way, that was a Shady play. Shady ran that.
Yes. Yes.
That was I digress. I'm on my soapbox.
And a Darren Sproles too. But although Sproles would run a wheel, they would run wheels with Sproles.
And by the way, he just Flip said him and Sproles had a pretty good relationship. He thought Sproles was so good.
He was so smooth
before he got hurt. But he said Sproles is just different. Because he's so small and you hide him, behind the offensive line. It's just as Chibba called him, Sprolesy.
Sprolesy. All right, you ready? We'll get into defense. Special teams. We'll mention that I thought punting was good, and we got a nice 25-yard return from Britton Covey. So special teams has actually been good. I mean, somehow Jake Elliott missed a kick against the Jets that I still don't understand because it's like weird when he misses a kick now. But it's when you talk about things they did last year that really needed to be improved. Special teams has absolutely been improved. I think that there's no question about it.
I'll be honest with you. Michael Clay didn't impress me last year. I don't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever he's done, and Joe Panunzio and Tyler Brown.
Yeah.
Kudos, guys. You've got it going on. I understand. Look, they had to get Braden Mann going. He's doing a really good job. Now, I understand, as we said when they signed him, they're just talking to certain teams over the years about special teams, particularly punters. Not every punter is asked to punt the same way.
Mm.
And you have to get used to the way that they're taught here. And whatever they're teaching them is really working now. Covey's tremendous. We would laugh up. It wasn't his fault. We kept telling you guys the block was atrocious for him. It wasn't him last year. It was the blocking. And then you saw second half better. And this year he's terrific. Not everyone punt's going to be great.
Yeah.
But that, as you mentioned, 25-yarder was good, and Jake Elliott's a stud, and Lovato's great. Look, they're. I mean, I don't rate special teams, and I'm sure the Pro Football Focus, does this. They got to be top 10, wouldn't they? What do you think?
Ooh, top 10s.
Is that a lot
I don't
to
know.
say?
I don't know. I
I
mean,
don't
you're right. Elliott.
Nobody returns kicks. Anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jake Elliott probably helps them in that department. Who's the guy from Dallas that used to work for the Dallas Morning News? Goose.
Rick Goslin. Yeah, I was thinking
Goslin. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know, but we'll ask. We'll
hit him
check
up.
in.
Say, hey, what do you think of Eagle special teams?
I haven't talked to him. I don't know him very well. Just say hello, but I'm very curious where they're ranked. Because they've been so good, and I'm so we're kind of stunned here.
Right.
And that was a big initiative, and I give Howie credit for extending this contract, Michael Clay, because I was kind of stunned.
Mm-hmm.
And from what we had heard there was another team that had interested in him. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it doesn't matter. They brought Michael Clay back. Another thing is, and they've done this with personnel when they won't cut players when other people think they should be cut, and they turn out to be right to give guys more of a chance. This is it looked bad last year, and they hung on with this coach, a young guy, played for Chip at Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Didn't he play for Chip?
Yes.
So to end this part of it, yeah, that great job, guys. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you.
All right. Well, we do want to tell people to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check out all their great work on PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation. Let's also pause and hear a word from our great friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You will get a great deal. So I want to give you my quick theory on why, again, no one's going to come out and say it because coaches don't do that, but why I think that the Eagles might have been a little bit vanilla and stale, which led to them getting picked apart. I would suspect that if you shot up Sean Desai with Truth Serum and said, why did you just kind of line up and play that way and allow them to pick you apart? He would say, well, I had a safety starting for the first time since he got here 3 days ago. I have a nickel, or I have another safety who's a rookie named Sidney Brown, who's playing nickel for me, and he's never played nickel before, and he's not really his thing. I'm trying to rotate a couple of linebackers, and I got this kid Eli Ricks who's played slot for about 2 days for me. I don't think the personnel enabled him to do a whole lot of stuff, and I certainly think he didn't want to blitz that much, which he would throw occasional pressures, and man, the Commanders just invite you to blitz them with how bad they are at pass protection. But I think he was just the Commanders were putting their receivers like Jahan Dotson, even McLaurin in the slot a lot, in the middle, in the interior, and they were throwing to Logan Thomas and their interior receivers because they knew that was the weakness of the Eagles and where they could get him. So they were purposely mismatching some of their best playmakers against Eagles who are playing in spots where they don't ordinarily play, whether it's Ricks in the slot, even Byard played a little slot. Sidney Brown played the slot. He's not a slot corner. No, so I don't think that this was the week where Sean Desai was like, in the lab, like thinking up all the great schemes that he can think up and all these wonderful blitzes, because he didn't want to leave guys in one-on-one situations, and he didn't want to probably move around a whole lot of guys and do all this post-snap, pre-snap when a couple guys just got here and are doing their thing. I would think that might be a reason. I'm not saying that's an excuse. He did make a good adjustment. He did put the pressure. Jason and Quentin noticed this in the third and fourth quarter. They started stunting a whole lot more, which brought obviously you're not blitzing, but you're figuring out a way to get more pressure and play line games. And the Commanders really struggle with stunts. They did it last week against the Giants too. So it worked. I mean, they won the game and they got better, but it it doesn't matter. There's no excuses. This is what Sean Desai has, and going forward, he's going to have to figure it out. But I think if you look at the trajectory of the year so far, Adam, he's had to play a lot of different guys in positions, and he's done a pretty good job for the most part. So he's going to have a game every once in a while where the opponent, and Eric Bieniemy is a good one, is going to attack that weakness and win.
Eric Bieniemy, the Eagle killer, man. This dude. I mean, I don't know what we'd have to look at the numbers in the other games. Sam Howell is. I mean, it was just now he wasn't the first game. They got after him, and he just stood there and took it and did a great job. This game, no offense, Sam, you weren't under pressure very much.
No.
He is over 600 yards in 2 games. He's 68 completions in 2 games.
Yeah, he's the new Jake Plummer. He definitely is.
Like you brought that before. I guess when he was with Arizona.
Oh my God, he gave the Eagles fits, dude. You don't remember that?
Oh, 98? 98? Was it that word?
Yeah, I mean, for not being a very, again, it's the similar part is that it's not like he's Peyton Manning. It's not like the Cardinals were this great team, but they would beat the Eagles every once in a while because he would do some crazy stuff.
I know Joe DeCamera, my boy, he would know. You think I'm good with player numbers? His encyclopedia knowledge of Philadelphia sports is just so ridiculous.
It's a little worrisome.
Now he obviously reads it. What's that?
It's a little worrisome, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. He's crazy with the bathtub and reading. I don't know what it is, but he's great. He's a great dude. But anyway, so to finish this off, it's going to be interesting because this game's at home against Dallas Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about CeeDee Lamb and went off against the Rams, and he's more of an inside receiver than outside. Mm-hmm. The Eagles having major issues in the back, in which you nailed all of it. I can't really argue. By the way, Byard played every defensive snap in his first game. every snap.
That's well, I predicted that he was going to play a whole lot of snaps, and he did.
I get it. And he's already one of my favorite players just to discuss. He's such a dude. Mm-hmm. And I love it. He doesn't care. He's a 30-year-old veteran. He knows accountability is everything. He's like, he didn't sugarcoat anything. He said, myself, I got to play better. We all got to play better. It's just not, he knows they got smoke. They got help. So you're right. You're playing guys out of position, guys who would be playing if everybody's healthy, but this is what they have. And Desai now, after the trade deadline, he now knows what his roster is going to be. Sean was asked about this as a press conference a couple weeks ago, kind of laughed. Because, hey, we've been dealing with this all season. It's fine. He didn't see it. He kind of said it very matter of fact, like, we're dealing with this all the time. It's okay. This is what he knows. This is what they got to deal with. And as a young defensive coordinator, it's not ideal. It's not what you want. But now you know when you're facing positional adversity and roster adversity, this makes you stronger as a coach. Okay, this is not what you want, but you got to dial stuff up. I mean, I remember with DeFilippo, this is great story. John, when he was the OC of the Browns in 2015, this actually happened, and John confirmed it. I asked him, I don't know, was I at a game? I remember talking to him during that season. I said, is this true you're playing Andrew Hawkins who's 5'7" and X? He goes, yes, he is. They're X receiver right now. We don't have anybody else. Think about that. That's crazy. Slot receiver.
Yeah.
Because Dwayne Bowe was not available, and you got to do what you got to do. John, when Johnny Manziel was having his problem, he never complained. It's okay. This is what I got to deal with. This is coaching. Got to do it.
Right. Yeah. All right. So let's finish this off with this. We're going to have this discussion as the weeks go on.
This is a great show. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. We're going to have a discussion that I think is going to make some people uncomfortable.
Uh-oh.
You know, there are a couple of players that, like, it's like you're almost not allowed to say they might be struggling or they have room to improve in.
Oh, I know where you're going. Go ahead.
Where am I going?
Number 17.
Yeah. We're going to have an honest conversation about Nakobe Dean.
Not Harold Carmichael.
No, not Harold. No. There's no question.
How's my guy? He's such a good dude.
Yeah. Greg Cosell points this out, and I think it's a really important facet that in college, Nakobe Dean was great. A, playing behind a great defensive line, but B, being a guy who was rangy against the run, sideline to sideline, made a ton of tackles, and blitzed a lot. Not covering a lot. Well, in the NFL, on third down, on a team that runs a Fangio-style defense, you're not going to be blitzing a whole lot if you're a linebacker. And you are going to be in coverage. You are going to be doing the match, carry, deliver. You are going to be running. You are going to be asked to take depths in your drops in zone and be in the right landmarks. And the sample size is too small. The Eagles have played 8 games, and he's missed 4, right? Yeah. So let's the sample size get a little bit bigger because he's a very smart linebacker. There's no question about that.
Instinctive as hell, but not.
But there's some issues there.
Yep.
Again, he's an Eagles linebacker, so like there's always issues with the Eagles linebacker.
But hang on.
But I think the supersized expectations,
yes,
are what makes this difficult conversation.
But here's the thing, and I remember you brought this up when you had some really good information on TJ Edwards a couple years ago. TJ worked his ass off to become better at coverage.
Yeah.
He was really bad in the beginning, so they got better, then became an acceptable nickel linebacker. I know every now and then he wasn't great at it, but overall he was decent at the coverage. Dean right now doesn't have that intuitive feel in coverage. Now, it doesn't mean is it DJ Elliott? Is that his name?
Oh yeah, the linebackers coach, DJ Elliott.
So this guy has got to get him going. I mean, this guy's been a D coordinator before in college football.
Mm-hmm. He's
got to get this kid going. And look, we told you in Zach Cunningham, it would be eventually be an issue of coverage. He's been tremendous against the run. He is a good. Remember, he was one of the best inside linebackers in football, but a run guy, not a pass game guy.
Yeah.
We talked about how teams are going to get him on third down, and they're probably going to start doing it on first down. And I think that's starting to happen here.
Yeah.
So this is a great point. We're going to talk about it on Sunday.
Yeah. I think you've made this point. We'll finish off with this many times, and it's still hard for some people to accept. The league view on a player, especially coming out of the draft, and the media view or the fan view can oftentimes be very, very different. So like a lot of times you see a guy getting like the draft picks, put him in the first round. He goes in the second round, third round, fourth round. It's like, did he fall because of character? Did he fall because of, did he get in trouble? Something happen, or does he have an injury? Yeah. I mean, yeah, N'Kobe Dean had the pec, right. And he didn't run at his pro day. So there were question marks just about that. Certainly not character. He's like the greatest guy ever and smartest guy ever. It was all, there was some medical there, but that was not all of why he fell. It wasn't all medical. There were some people who just didn't see him as an awesome, great, fantastic NFL linebacker. And it's just the truth. That's just what people told us. So I know it's hard for some to accept, but it's the truth.
Medical was a big reason why he dropped, but it is, and this is not after the fact because he's not.
No, we said it. Yeah.
We said this then. There were some concerns. Size only did certain things, but we didn't. It's hard to encapsulate that as a professional because until he didn't really play last year because they TJ Edwards.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, he missed 4 games, so we don't have enough of the sample size.
Right.
I didn't see anything in training camp that was worrisome with it, but
it's hard. Yeah.
But we're going to see. It's at 100% fair ground to bring it up. It's a problem. They got absolutely smoked in the second level. 15 yards downfield, 10 yards downfield. It's like, look at the gaps.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I could have gone out there. I run about a 7 flat. 40.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but you get it.
Yeah. Just for perspective, by the way, and some of this is expectation based, but one person who watches Eagles tape who I spoke to said, you know what? I think Zach Cunningham has actually been their best coverage linebacker. And, I was like, you might be right because Zach's actually done a good job, but that's probably because you also didn't expect that, right? Because he's never been known to be
exactly. No, but I'll back you up on one thing. I did notice when Cleveland came in here, he had a couple tip balls, and one of them was tipped to Blankenship for an interception. Mm-hmm. But I remember writing my notes like, wow, he's moving very well in coverage. This is not what I've heard from people who actually work with him. They love him. He's a baller. Is one of the quotes that I got. Big time leader, good dude, but he had a ton of injuries. Coverage is an issue. Well, it's hard to say because we don't do grades here. Mm-hmm. I don't know what PFF has for him in coverage, but it's just something we're going to keep an eye on because with the gauntlet of look, they got away with it against Miami. Miami doesn't use tight ends in the pass game.
Right.
You got Kelsey coming up, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. And CeeDee Lamb is an interior mostly receiver.
Yep.
So I mean, we're gonna see a
you've
test.
Got Kelsey. We're gonna get out in a second, but you've got Josh Allen, Diggs will go inside. You got Kittle, Mr. Eagle Killer. Oh my, what's the number?
Oh God, 15 for 15 that he once was, but over
right.
But
games? Wasn't it? Was it over 2 games? 20.
That it was 11 for 11 and 4 for 4.
Yeah, 14 for 14, whatever. So Kittle owns them. Then you've got Metcalf and Lockett coming up, and then the Cowboys again. So look, this is coming here, folks. And Dalton Kincaid, by the way, the great first game as a first round tight end for the Bills, folks. Sean Asai is earning his pay, and it's going to be a challenge, buddy. We'll see what happens.
No doubt about it. All right. Next podcast will be on Friday. We'll be previewing that Cowboys game because it is Dallas week here in Philadelphia.
I hate that story, by the way. I'm not a fan of any team other than Sixers, Flyers, or Washington Caps. Sorry, but I was growing up here my whole life. I cannot stand that damn story.
We need to do a podcast some summer. Like how you became a Washington Cap. Don't say it now, but it just sounds like a great story of how you became a Washington Cap.
You cannot, and the story is, I won't say it.
Okay.
You cannot call me a bandwagon fan for liking them. And when you hear why,
no, definitely not.
You're unbelievable. Like, because I'm the anti-bandwagon. I like to like teams when they suck.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. Dallas Mavericks. I've been a lifetime Dallas Mavericks fan.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast and Eagles Intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.